Coming up on Open Source with Tony Motley, the Black Lives Matter movement is going forward with a full head of steam, and other actors are now moving to hold corporate America's collective feet to the fire. Entrepreneur Alexx Poston has launched a new website that's a clearinghouse and vetting system for how companies are demonstrating their value and commitment to the Black community.
It just came to me and it was obvious. Once we talk about it to other people, a few colleagues and mentors, and everyone gets it in the blink of an eye.
Alexx Poston is a serial entrepreneur, an executive coach, and an educational consultant among her many professional interests. Poston has launched a new website, thegreenlist2020.com. Alexx Poston, welcome to Open Source.
Hi, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm really glad that you decided to do this. You're launching something that's kind of coincides with Juneteenth. But give me a better idea of what Greenlist 2020 is and why you've done it.
Yeah, so I would say almost a week ago, I was having a conversation with some friends, and we were, talking about the state of, our communities and the needs of Black people. And what came up for us was, how much we spend as a community and where we spend our money. Recently there's been a number of companies and brands that have either responded, been silent, or given a statement in support of Black lives. And that was, for me, very eye-opening. It was like within a very short window, we saw who was on our side, And for me, that was important to make known in the Black community. I wanted to immediately be more conscious of who I spend my money with, and I wanted my friends to be as well. So, initially it started off as a spreadsheet. I just wanted to create something that was exhaustive based on what I knew publicly. And it sort of has evolved very quickly into a website. We wanted to make it user-friendly and easy to navigate. But essentially, in a few words, it's a spending guide for Black people. So we know who cares about not just our Black dollars, but our Black lives.
And how can
so part of that is...
Go ahead. Explain that. Go ahead. How do you explain that?
So the site, you're able to look at different categories and see within food and beverage, restaurants, clothing and footwear, which brands have acknowledged racism still existing in our communities and our country, and doing something about that within their individual companies and externally for their customers. So that means folks that have given a statement, donated, created action plans on how to make sure their cultures in their companies are anti-racist and supportive of Black people. And so what we've done is we've done a lot of research. I worked with about 4 or 5 girls that are experienced researchers. We've done a lot of digging. We've looked at historical information, current information, and we've come up with a list of companies and brands that really support Black people. And so with that, we call them our allies. And those are the folks that we think Black people should spend money at because they care about us. And that money will go back into our communities because they are investing in the Black community. And for those that haven't said anything, or maybe they gave a statement but haven't done anything actionable or made any commitments, we're saying, let's slow the roll there. We need and we deserve more. Black people spend $1.2 trillion a year annually. We outpace spending of any other race in this country. And we think we're powerless, but we have spending power. We have leverage. And the reason I think that a lot of things haven't changed for us is because we haven't used it. There have been no economic consequences to racism. And I want that to change. And so the Green List is a strategy to get there.
So, this is a really bold undertaking, and I just kind of heard you say over the last week. So are you saying you've done all this work in about a week's time?
I have. We've had a number of sleepless nights, but I have never felt more passionate about something more clear about what we need as a community than recently. It just came to me and it was obvious. And I think it's more obvious once we talk about it to other people. I've shared it with a few friends, a few colleagues and mentors, and everyone gets it in the blink of an eye. Wow, this is what I was talking about with my friends. Everyone's having these conversations. We just don't have the resource. So I wanted to create the resource for people to use and shop more wisely, more consciously, and more intentionally when it comes to Black dollars.
Now, this has been...
Yeah, to your point.
That's good.
We've been doing all-nighters.
All-nighters, yeah. This is interesting because, it's just been a short window that you've worked on this, but I'm wondering already, what has surprised you so far as you've put this together?
Yeah, what's happened in the last week is some brands started off in the boycott zone because they've been silent. Some brands started in the ally zone because they gave support to the Black community in a number of ways. And in a week's time, we've had a lot of fluctuations. A lot of companies have either done something good, which is great, but some companies have sort of reverted back. And either one person or a number of people in their organization have done something harmful, right? So it's just interesting to see how companies are addressing this and how committed and consistent they are, which is why for us, it's about accountability. So it's not about just putting out a statement or even contributing. It's about a revolution in terms of how they treat and honor Black people. They have Black employees, they have Black customers. Do they treat them well? Is there racial profiling? Do they have affinity groups for Black people? Do they have organizational policies that ensure there's no pay discrepancy between Black people and other non-Black people? How do they really treat their employees? Because at the end of the day, what I'm seeing is that a lot of companies put out a statement, and then you see in their comments all the different things that Black people feel about how they've been treated at these companies. So for me, that's been the most surprising thing, that companies that have said something, they're not actually doing anything. And this is why we want to hold them to their so-called statements and really expect more of them.
I think this may be one of the few times where a company has made a statement in support of an idea and then been held accountable for that statement. Usually they've made these statements and no one's really followed up or checked them. Am I right?
That's right. It's easy to write a statement. I've written many statements. I've worked in marketing. People can get behind a statement, but when it comes down to actual change and change in policy and procedures and systemic change even within their companies, people don't typically make that a priority. But now I think companies are realizing they can't keep operating the way they have. And so what I think will happen is that people will finally revisit. They'll sort of realize their shortcomings. They'll look inward. They'll start asking their Black employees, how are we doing when it comes to meeting your needs? So we're hoping that conversation starts. But more importantly, we want them to invest in the Black community. And so to be an ally on the green list, we ask them to do 5 things. We ask them to invest in the community. That means give a meaningful donation, 1.865, as a nod to the emancipation of slaves. And then we also ask companies to give capital to Black-owned businesses. That's where we really need companies to do more to help us build our own. There's so many companies that exist in our communities that aren't owned by Black people. And that's why people are shocked when they say, why are there so many rioters or looters? We're not invested necessarily in these stores in our communities. We don't own them. So when they say that we're ruining our community, are we really? Like, who you think owns that store up the block? It's not a Black person. Even if the person that works there is Black, the owner is often not Black.
And I guess that's that protest is symbolic of a deeper sense of frustration that goes back generations, actually. It's not just about right now. I mean, now, just to frame this a little bit, you're not 35, but you're over 21. So you're of a generation that's really in a position to make a difference. And you said you're finding your contemporaries are as passionate as you are. And do you think they're going to stick with this?
I hope so. I think that people are really not just opening their eyes and waking up, not just white people, right? There's a lot of conversation happening amongst white people around racism and either having ignored it or normalized it, not addressed it, right? But even with Black people, we're realizing, man, we've been dealing with a lot. We've just thought this was okay and just normal. We thought this was part of the Black experience, right? I thought it was hard to, be taken seriously in a boardroom. I thought it was hard to have my voice heard or even get a job. I thought that was just a normal Black experience. I was raised to know it's going to be hard for me because I'm Black. And so I've been operating in that mind space forever. And recently I have started to question why that's okay. Why is that our experience? Why does it have to be like that? And I think a lot of people are having that conversation because we're tired. We're fed up. It's almost as if we're going through another level of trauma, working in white spaces, working and living in white environments. And we want to feel safe. We want to feel respected. We want to feel seen. I mean, at the end of the day, we built this country. We deserve at least that, and we don't get it. And so I'm hoping, and I think that we're going to get there, that we can unify. You know, as a community, we really haven't had a lot of cohesion. And that was lost years ago on purpose, intentionally. Because I think people know that when Black people get together, we are a powerful force. There is no stopping us.
Well, I think you're right. I think when you consider, just to bring back an old head, so to speak, Jesse Jackson's known for saying that when the rules are clear and when the playing field is level, Black people compete like nobody else. And I think that's true.
Oh, yeah. We're a special people. You know, I know we're God's people. And we've gone through and been through so much, and we've still persevered. Yes, we struggle, but the struggle is not because of who we are. It's because of the system and the society that we live in, because they know our power, they know our purpose, and they know our greatness.
Well,
and
I think too, Alex.
Yeah, they built a society that we could not thrive because we wouldn't compete. We would outdo a lot of people because of our skills.
I think that when you think about what you ultimately are going to do, what you're trying to do with Greenlist 2020, you're deconstructing a lot of myths about white supremacy. And, you know, those are things that people believe to be true based on certain outcomes that we've had in this country, but they're not based on merit necessarily. They're based on someone having an unfair advantage sometimes. So when you start deconstructing these myths, then you get other issues too. Are you prepared for that?
Yeah, you know, I think that we'll ask the question one more time for me. You said
these myths. I mean, the thing about there used to be. Let's say sports is an easier one because everybody's watched baseball or football, and a Black player couldn't be a quarterback or a linebacker because they didn't have the mental capacity to lead. That's that kind of extreme kind of myth making, but we see it in corporate spaces as well, where 1% of the C-suite membership of Fortune 500 companies involves people of color, Black people, 1%. And so that's the kind of real life myth of clearly somebody doesn't believe Black people can lead or should lead. And that's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's about power, of course, right? I think when you can see power, often people think that means it's a loss on their end. And what's happened over time is that Black people have started to demand and ask for more authority, more decision-making authority, more position. And it's happening in small pockets of the country, but by and large, we still don't have access. We still don't have resources. We still don't have capital to build our communities, to not make them neighborhoods or hoods, right, where people just live and sleep, but places where people can thrive and get good quality education, good health care, can have jobs that are, you know, jobs that they enjoy, not just jobs just to be able to get by. Like, that's not a community. That's a neighborhood where people are just sleeping and eating and functioning and surviving. And that's where a lot of our people are, and they're sitting in that space most of their lives. And so I really believe that if we start to change the narrative, if we allow companies to exist in our community still and just take our Black dollars, inflate their bottom lines, and we do nothing, and we do so blindly, nothing will change. There are no economic consequences. There's no economic consequences to exist in the Black community and not do anything to support the Black community. And that can't continue.
When you consider that you've worked in the education realm for a while, and you interact with young people, and so you understand the condition that these young African-American students, some live in, where they come from, and the challenges that they have, how has that shaped how you are moving right now, or has it at all?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, I think that's what keeps me up at night, working on, passion projects like this. It really just keeps me up at night because I see it every day. I see the lack of opportunity and the structures in place that keep people, under the thumb of America. And so many people are not seen. Often you see on TV this illusion of progression of Black people. You might see a few people in certain positions and you think, oh, we're making progress. But if you actually go to the West Side or the South Side of LA and you see people struggling, I work in education right now. I oversee a district of 28 schools. Right now during this pandemic, we're offering lunches and dinner to families. The line is miles long. People are desperate for support. They're desperate for basic needs. And for me, it's tragic, it's inhumane, and it's just not right. And we continue to just normalize poverty as a function in the society that is just going to continue. I want to get Black people out of poverty. That cannot be the norm. We deserve better. And we can't continue to be okay with just outliers, people that do well and still are able to succeed. But by and large, when you have people not educated, not given opportunities, constantly being stripped of resources, how do you expect people to do well? And so you over-criminalize, you over-police, you put them in prison, right? So this is another form of slavery for me. And that's what it looks like, that's what it feels like. And I wanted to do something about it. And I think that I thought about, what does the Black community need? We need capital. We need money. We need people to invest in the things that are going to help us grow. And the people that have the capital are the companies that we support. Right. And so if they want us to support them, they got to support us.
What sectors do you see where Greenlist 2020 could have the most impact early? What places do you say this is a place where we can get our a stronghold and build from there? What do you think?
I think it's the sectors where there's a couple of options and that it's easy to switch over to a different option. So sectors like gas stations and grocery stores, right? Sometimes clothing stores, depending on, the city or the neighborhood. I think people realize that I'm going to the store, but there are other options. But I've always gone to the store, I have brand loyalty, or maybe I like the thing that they provide. But they haven't actually looked to, one, are there Black-owned businesses that offer the same thing? Or what is this company doing for the Black community? We just don't ask those questions.
Right. And I think Black people are more brand loyal than any other group in the market.
It's true. We're very brand loyal, but I think it's because that's the thing that we are able to control and we are able to get. We don't own anything, so when we buy things, when we have a thing, it feels like ownership, but it's falsehood. That's not ownership. You bought the new pair of shoes, you might feel like you own that, but they actually own you. But you're going to keep going back and spending your money and still not have much.
And then I think, too, you can argue that for some people, that's really the only impact they can have is to bust, if they can get that new pair of shoes or maybe even get a new car. That's really all they can do. They can't, like you said, they can't own a store, own a business. So, consumerism is basically all they have. And
I get it. When you maybe don't have all the things that are flaunted on TV or Instagram or social media, and you want those things. You want to have the things that everyone else has, and you want the things that you deserve to have because you work hard. You take care of your obligations.
Now, see, that's another myth, Alexx, right there. Just to interrupt you, a myth of hard work, because the myth is that Black people don't work hard or even that Black people are lazy. But again, we know Black people built this country, built most of the so-called Americas with the hard labor. And so this idea that Black people are not willing to work is just not true.
Obviously slavery was labor. We built the country based on an agricultural labor force, and we worked. Our ancestors worked day and night to give wealth to white people, and they took advantage of that. They have land, they have resources, oil, corn, wheat, all those things.
Textiles, everything. I think one of the things that struck me is the little skinny book, Frederick Douglass's narrative about slave narrative. And when he talked about getting a job on a ship after his day was done, or weekends when he was a slave, and the master found out what he was doing and took his money, he decided at that point he was either going to be free or die. Just the fact that he did not own himself. And I think in a figurative sense, I think Black America now has an awakening of, we don't really own ourselves. We're being controlled and bullied and policed by this outside entity that's controlling our lives. And so I'm saying it wrong. the website,
okay.
The website is really
the
designed.
2020.
Yeah, it's designed to get people up off of their feet and to be able to control their own lives.
It's activism, right? Not everyone needs to or wants to go outside and protest. A lot of people don't feel safe to do that. Black people don't feel safe. Black men, especially, wearing a mask, being around a group of people that may be agitated. Police are coming. We don't know. We're thankful for our non-Black peers that are using their privilege to fight back and, use their voice. But there are people at home that want to get involved, that still realize that racism exists and we want to do something about it. And so this is activism and protest using your money. And that's really where it hurts, because money talks.
Oh, absolutely.
Companies are making shifts because, shoot, I don't want to lose my base, my Black base. Because a lot of these companies, their bottom line, 25 to 30% of that is purely Black dollars.
And I don't know any company that could afford to lose 25% of their revenue and survive.
Not at all. And so that's a real fear for them. And so unfortunately that is the impetus of a lot of change, but we'll take it. Part of this is not just a one-time thing, right? It's about sustainable change, sustained change, and being held accountable to that. So the things that we're asking companies to do, not just invest, but to shatter the glass ceiling, hold shadow days, have career days for our elementary and middle school students that are predominantly Black. Offer a paid internship at your corporate offices with 50% of the slots going to Black students. Recruit at Black colleges and community colleges with high populations of Black students. We want our Black kids and students to know there are opportunities beyond what they see every day. And companies should be hiring them. They should not just use Black people for the cool factor anymore. We're in their advertisements. They create products for us to buy, but there are white people that are controlling those decisions and making those products.
How realistic is it for you to think that some of those things are going to change right away, and why do you think they will?
I don't think it'll happen right away. I don't think it's a switch that turns on, but I do think it's a realization. It's an acknowledgement that happens first. It's a choice. It's a decision of, can we do better and will we? So each company has to make that choice. And if they don't, there will be economic consequences. But if they do, there's opportunity for them to get it right. And I think that's okay. I work at an organization that didn't always get it right. It wasn't until Black people left that they realized, our biggest talent, our talent pool of Black people are not happy here. There's something wrong in the culture. There's something that we're not doing right. And it was a number of things. But over time, with the commitment that they made, the intentional commitment to do better and to learn how to support their Black employees and to support their Black students and families, we've done a 180. And so it's about leadership. It's about acknowledgement. It's about commitment. And it's about doing it over time with quality.
So I think this 2020 is a significant historic moment. This is
right.
What we're seeing now, the protest. Unfortunately, we're still seeing cops, white officers killing Black people, and so many more since even George Floyd passed away 2 weeks or so ago. And so that's distressing. But again, I think we just have to persevere and to continue to fight back like you're doing. Have you got any feedback from other people about Green List 2020 and what are the concerns that other people have about it?
I actually haven't gotten negative feedback at all. People are excited. People were like, man, I was just looking for this. This is perfect. This is what I need. People want to change the way they spend their dollars. People want to hold companies accountable. They don't want to be a part of the problem, right? Even our non-Black peers. I have white coworkers and white friends that are on board. They want to support Black people and they want to do what's right. That's going to help us. They want to work in solidarity with us. Well, what I think will happen is that people will make the commitment. It'll be difficult. Any protest or any boycott is about sustainability and sustained effort and commitment. And so we have to make the choice to change. We have to make the choice to be uncomfortable. It's not going to be comfortable to not go to your favorite store anymore. But is it worse than your children experiencing racism in the society, overt and indirectly? It's people need to make the choice. Either you want to make the change in the society and be a part of it, or you're okay with living in the society as it is. I think a lot of people are over it. They don't want to do it anymore, and they want better for their children and their future generations.
And I think you made a really good point, too. There are friends of mine that are white, that are Asian, that are Hispanic, that are in solidarity with Black people. And I think this is different than in any other period in history. But there were other Jewish people, there were other whites that in smaller numbers that helped in the past, but nothing like we've seen now. And I think for some people, I mean, some Blacks are questioning that participation, but I think it makes a difference because the larger culture, it's changed the polling data. I think when you see these 30-somethings, 20-somethings of all races protesting and involved, it's hard for the 50-somethings, the 60-somethings to continue to hold on to those same attitudes when they see their children out there fighting.
Yeah, I think it's an outcome, one of the positive outcomes of integration. White people have Black friends and they care about their Black friends and they get it. I think before they haven't had a clear way to express what they knew to be true, right? They weren't able to channel their maybe their own frustration, or they felt that there wasn't anything in their power to make a change. And so now they have an avenue to express themselves and do so in a way that is impactful. And they're doing it. They're in the streets. I've been to a number of protests in the last couple of weeks, and it is diverse. It is beautiful. It is healing. And it's really the reason that I feel like it's happening is that people realize that there could be no more. Something about the unfortunate passing and murder of George Floyd woke everyone up. You saw blatantly lynching on TV. Someone killed someone because of their color. And even though we've seen it before, I think something about that video, I think it's a spiritual thing too. I think it happened is almost like a climax right after this pandemic. And during the pandemic, everyone was sitting in their homes. They were on their phones, at their computers, working from home, and you couldn't be distracted anymore.
Right. I think there's an
you couldn't miss it.
An amazing confluence of circumstances. There's really no entertainment. Yes. There's no theater, no movies, no sports. There's
TV.
Nothing. Yeah. Everything is probably in reruns now, and everybody's at home. So there's an amazing, and then you've got a very divisive personality in the White House. And I think all of that has led us to where we are right now. And I think as much as the president may want to change the subject, and maybe some people that are in authority want to change the subject, you can't really, that cat is out of the bag right now. It's not going to go back.
Yeah, it was definitely a culmination of events. You're absolutely right. With Amy Cooper, with all the Karens that, we see on TV and on Twitter. At the end of the day, now we have cameras, and that's now our defense mechanism. It's our way to protect ourselves, that we are not lying. This is not a myth. It's not something you can, brush under the rug and say, oh, maybe they did the wrong thing, or maybe they had a weapon, or maybe they were just scared. You cannot excuse what you just saw. And then, like you said, added to that, you have a president that is silent, is instigating. And so it's compounded, and it's making people more and more upset, more and more radicalized, more and more clear about what they need to do differently and how they can help their Black peers. And so it's a beautiful thing. And I really hope that people are consistent and they push through the discomfort and it's sustained. Because I do know that, we live in a society of, 15 minutes of fame or trends, what's the new hashtag and, what's next. But this protest and this this movement it feels like it's here to stay until we see something different. We're no longer allowing our politicians and our leaders to brush it under the rug. We're no longer asking them to make a statement and kind of gloss over the real action that we're asking for. In LA, we're asking for them to defund the police. And people are actively involved in that because before, a lot of my friends have never even been on a police commission call. We've never been to a budget committee meeting. When I tell you everyone's showing up and showing out, it's happening.
Well, that's an amazing level of activism. I think for Greenlist 2020, the thing is going to be sustaining the momentum. What is your strategy for being able to do that? Yeah,
we're looking at different points in time, different milestones where we can continue to promote and build people's sort of endurance and stamina around this. And so it's going to be about, putting out content to keep people motivated. And there's so much happening in the news and in the media. There's something that we can point to almost every week. That's an injustice that Black people are facing and experiencing. But I think that will be, unfortunately, the reason that people don't stop.
And I'll say this, Alexx, as we conclude this conversation, it's been my theory, just mine, that the sense of fear and trepidation that people have about the police, that Black people have, it's by design. I think certain people in power are very comfortable with the idea that Black folks are scared of the police. So we've got a system that they designed to be. It's what they meant it to be.
Oh yeah. Why wouldn't we be afraid when people are in our communities policing us, doing so unjustly? They're not following their own rules. They're treating us differently than they treat our neighbors that are not Black. And you feel powerless, right? You can't have a weapon. You can't use your weapon. You don't have the ability to keep your family safe. Your brothers, your friends, your sisters, no one feels safe when the police are around. I don't feel safe when the police are near me.
The tragic
I get anxiety.
Thing is Alexx, if you tell your brothers, your sons to behave a certain way, you give them the so-called talk. We say with George Floyd, doesn't even matter. Doesn't even matter. There's nothing he could have done to save his own life. He begged for it. He called for his mother who's in the grave. There's nothing he could have done. He didn't resist. And I think that's really what's frightening about this. And I can see
there's no way to go about it. There's no right way or correct way to address a police officer when someone is using their position to exert their authority over you and doing so in a aggressive, violent way. What can you say to that? Especially if you've done nothing and you're complying and you're listening and you are not a real threat. You don't have a weapon. But you know that at the end of the day, they are in a position to get away with anything, murder.
Yeah, and cold-blooded murder. You're right.
Yeah.
So, Alexx, Greenlist 2020, how can people get involved besides going to greenlist2020.com? What else can people do to hear this? Yeah,
I would say besides going to the Greenlist 2020, just consider how you're spending your money. Ask more from companies that are not doing anything or saying anything in support of your life and your Black brothers and sisters. Consider why you feel so loyal to a brand and why they have that sort of hold on you before you are able to consider why they haven't supported you. That should be the first thing that you think about when you spend your money. I mean, money is hard to come by. We work hard. We spend almost 40 to 60% of our lives working. So when we have money, when we earn money, we should treat it valuably, with value. Our Black dollars are valuable, just like we are. And so, I ask people to make decisions, make their choices wisely, be conscious spenders, and ask for more. And we'll get it. We can't get what we don't ask for and what we don't demand. At the end of the day, we live in a capitalist society where money talks, and money is really what influences politics. And so if the corporations that we support then go and lobby for bills that harm us, we're hurting ourselves. we are indirectly and directly hurting ourselves. And so we cannot just say it was them or it was them over there. We have to look inward and say, what am I doing to support this? And so I just ask folks to take that time, use the green list because we make it easy for you, but just be conscious and be consistent.
All right, Alexx Poston, thegreenlist2020.com. This is Open Source with Tony Motley. Thank you, Alexx, for being here. Like the show, rate the show, tell a friend. We'll talk to you next time. Open Source with Tony Motley is a production of Duet Digital Media and McLaughlin Media.